Welcome to Expansive Minds Podcast, Gateway to Freedom, a podcast where two friends, Aileen and Nancy, explore and expand beyond what they think they know in order to live a life of freedom. Thank you for joining us, and away we go.
Hey, so we're back.
We are back.
It is our second video podcast. So I'm sure there'll still be things that we are moving through as we massage this new medium for us. So before we begin as always, just setting the intention. So we intend to be channels of love and light, and that every word and frequency and vibration that comes forth through us serves us and the greatest good of all with the harm to none. And so it is. Okay,
Beautiful.
Girl.
Great.
Star pants
I know,
today.
right? So, getting ready this morning, I saw my star leggings. And I do have a lot of different leggings because I work with kids sometimes.
So we're just going to
So
have
I
fun
teach
exploring the leggings
when I feel inspired.
on this show.
So, I saw these this morning and I thought about the Webb telescope. And the Webb telescope, just like the Hubble, just blows me away.
So I haven't seen it yet because I've been on vacation in Lake Tahoe, but tell me, update us.
There is just so much to say. And as you know, when you came in, I was feeling like, ooh, like when
Before we start, I'm like, are we good to go? Because she was like in her warmth
in
state,
my zone, which
very,
is the way it's been.
Yeah.
So I was with two really great friends of mine when the first images were being broadcast from the Webb telescope. I remember when the Hubble happened, and one of the things that just blew my mind was the amount of galaxies. So they were like, okay, here's an image, and there are, in this image, or like you can see there's 3,000 galaxies.
1,000?
Yeah, 3,000 galaxies, and they're all the size of a grain of sand. Like meaning this image that contained 3,000 galaxies, relative to the size and the enormity of the universe, is like a grain of sand. And I was just like, who is there? What are they doing? What's happening? There's activity there. It's not just like galaxies that are like, oh, nothing's here. It's like, you know.
Wow, they were firing.
Things are happening. They have, you're like, it has to be. I mean, there's movement, motion.
Yeah.
And then the Webb.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Now, what's the Webb proportions now? Now what are we seeing?
Well, the Webb, because it's using infrared technology, and it is a much different looking telescope than any that they've done before. So I would encourage anybody and everybody, just Google it. You will see some incredible short documentaries, and maybe some longer ones, describing how they built it, why they built it. And boy, at the edge of my seat, as they're, it's out, it's got to go, it's gone out beyond the Hubble because it has to reach a certain temperature. It's be very cold, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just watching each piece. Each piece has to like come out and unfold just perfectly, just right, And this other piece comes. It's what these scientists have created in a collaboration. I mean, talk about pure, insane genius. And that it functions, and then remember, time and space is, so we're getting images back we're getting images of things that existed 13.5 billion years ago.
That's crazy. So we don't know what's there now. We have no clue.
Well, that's the amazing thing, where it's like, I want to do this, like, okay, this is, of course, the illusion of 2022, right? So here, and it's like, yes, I would love to be where they are now.
Yeah.
And be like, well, what's there? Because we can't, we don't know. It's like if they are looking at our planet, if it's reversed, you know, it's
Yeah.
like depending upon the location and distance and light years, there are beings on planets that could be like, look at this planet, and they see dinosaurs
Yeah.
right now, but dinosaurs aren't here right now. We're here right now.
Right.
Whatever that means.
Right, right. This, I feel like such resonance for you, and you with the Star Trek and the space exploration. So I'm pretty sure you have some experience in some dimension or past lives as a space explorer.
Oh.
It's just like calling you home.
I just,
So
that-
for
the
me,
concepts.
It's amazing. For me, when we see things like that, it helps to further validate my belief that we are not the only ones. How can, you know, as math, as an engineer, it is statistically impossible.
Right.
Statistically impossible
Right.
to have the vastness that we are now finally becoming aware of, and to assume, oh, yep, we're it. It's just us. Like, really?
Exactly.
Really?
It just is impossible.
Not
Not possible. So I was looking at, before you got here, I was looking at some most recent Webb telescope discoveries, and Gabby was here, and we were both looking at this Cartwheel galaxy, and they're seeing and they're knowing that it collided with another galaxy and created this.
Holy cow.
I mean, the stuff they're seeing, and to hear these astrophysicists, to hear these people talking about it who are so invested, were such a big part of it, and watching their minds be blown to the point of
Yeah.
you're just like almost giggling incessantly because you can't believe it. And I remember this one woman in one of the live streams that I saw, she's pointing out something. She's like, we don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
You know, and then it makes me think about when referring to oceans, when all of a sudden it was like, I don't even remember, I think it was a National Geographic magazine I saw, where it's like, what? Look at those crazy fish, you know, is the fish that like were down so far and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And you're just like, what? Look at those like wacky looking creatures and beings that are created efficiently to live in the dark and live so deep. So this constant curious exploration into what goes beyond, like, right? Our like boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, I love it when scientists are sort of humbled by what they don't know. To me, that's a true scientist. To know what you don't know. Like Einstein. Like, I mean, so many scientists can get lost in their head and assume that they know it all, but it's it's people like physicists and who know what we don't know. Know that we don't know.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's like a baby crawling.
Yeah.
Right? So when we learn to crawl, you're like, I've got to get to the next thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, now I'm walking. Whoa, ho, ho.
I have a whole new perspective now that I'm sort of
Yes.
standing. Yeah.
Yes.
And you keep seeing the new perspectives.
It's that energy of going, curious, devouring what's in front of you and mastering your environment.
Love it. Well, I love your star pants. So I, on the other hand, and I appreciate your honoring the telescope, I, on the other hand, decided to honor my new earrings. However,
It's all good. I love it.
they are, there's the most glorious Native American gentleman in Tahoe at this amazing store in Virginia City. And they just felt so right. So I just got back from Tahoe in Virginia City, and you talk about, we were talking about you and your fascination with the stars. I have a thing with lakes, and in particular Lake Tahoe. We were just reading on our phones, that Lake Tahoe has some special magnetic radiance. What did I call it? What did I read about the violet flame?
Yes.
So can you explain what the violet flame is?
So the violet flame is, well, like anything, there's different perspectives of it, right? So the violet flame is a very healing, highly charged, it has to do with the color, has to do with the vibration of the color.
Okay.
And so the crown chakra is
Gotcha,
violet
gotcha.
because it's creative life force, divine energy. So
Yep.
you could say that it is sort of this ultimate, all-encompassing healing of all things.
Okay, so that is my understanding, that Lake Tahoe is one of the locations of a violet flame, and that the way the elements are structured, it makes that triangle that we, associate with the Arcturians.
Yes.
And in my book, We Are the Arcturians, there was chapter on the Crystal Lake in Arcturia. And there are crystals and magnetic stuff going on in Lake Tahoe. So I felt just compelled to get in that water. And normally I'm a little bit wussy. So like if I'm in the ocean, I will I don't want to go too deep because there's sharks and stuff. And then even when I'm in the lake, in Winnipesaukee or Winnisquam, I'm looking around, it's like, it's a little murky, can't see.
It's gonna bite my toe.
Yeah. But in Tahoe, it's crystal clear. The visibility is ridiculous. So I walked out on non-gucky sand, like there's no algae, it's pristine, and stood up to my chin in the lake with no fear. I'm looking around me, and it wasn't exactly viscous, like I wouldn't say, and not quite like the buoyancy of like a salt lake, I just lost it. The salt, the Dead Sea.
Right.
But you felt almost lifted. It was amazing. So yeah, I really enjoyed my Tahoe experience. That to me felt very connected, and the Native American. Who's dinging? Is it me or you?
I don't want to interrupt you.
I'm pretty sure it's you.
I think it's
ding
me.
Ding. I have
because
my
I don't.
thing.
Well, that's
because your
that's
phone
part
is
of
new.
our story.
Okay, so here with your new phone,
Here,
let me
you
tell
can
you
do
a
it.
feature on your
And then
new
we can
phone.
talk about-
Let
we
me
can
tell you
talk
about
about,
your
like,
new phone
explain.
feature that's kind of blocked with your do hyper.
Oh, is that what it
case.
is? All right,
Yeah.
you show me.
So I slid that button to be red. This is
Okay.
a do not disturb. I'm going to leave it open too, so that
All
you're
right.
aware that it is.
Yeah. So Nancy will. So that yes. So that I turned. What I
Aileen
thought
just
was
got
the sound
an
off.
iPhone. So we're learning that technology because
I
we were
just
both
got it and haven't had time to do
Android
anything with it.
people, and we still love our Androids,
Yes.
but the kids have iPhones, and they don't work together. So we
That
as
fine line of
mothers,
peer pressure.
yeah. Well, and as a mother, I'm like, I'll do what it takes to be able to communicate with my kids. So we
Exactly.
switched to iPhone, begrudgingly switched to iPhones.
I've
we
had
still
an
love our
Android the entire time, and as I was saying to you, it's videos of my grandchildren.
For me, it was texting. We were trying to text with the
Yeah,
children
groups.
in various theme parks, and nobody was getting texts. And I think it was after we were at one particular, I don't know if we were at Disney or Universal. I'm like, that's it. I
How
wanna
we
be
make
able
our
to have real
choices and
time
why
text.
we make our choices
Yeah.
that don't always match our own.
Yeah. I
thought
think
process,
that
but-
trumping factor, though, is the mother choices.
That's exactly what it was. Exactly what it was.
factor.
So now, how to make
Now that we're not dinging.
I thought it like I was hoping it was going to come in a meditative moment, like after you say something, it would be like ding.
Yeah.
And we'd all just like
Maybe
hold
we
the
need those
space of
bells
that.
that Eckhart Tolle has. Make a point and then ding and follow the sound of the silence while it soaks into your consciousness.
Exactly. No, instead it was like ding, 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 ding. So that is, that's such a beautiful, I don't want to say story experience that you're sharing. And before we went on and you were talking about your earrings and Native American, and we were like, oh, this is funny. We have two very different things that we came with in our minds. However, as I mentioned, I think this gathering of talking about the indigenous culture, trying to make sense of what they saw, right? And all the stories of Turtle Island as the earth. Like there's a lot of ways that we try to make sense of what we're seeing. And I'm sure, I know you and I both have looked in our own ways and times at like, well, what are these, crop circles? What is with this? What is with, like, who came here? How did they get here? Did they come here? Cultures who were not ready to create an explanation that was more accurate to what was occurring, create an explanation from the language and the knowledge that they do have. Just like we're doing with right? Whatever it might be, whether it's what's going on in Lake Tahoe with the energy and crystals and the feeling of it, or what's going on with the Webb telescope, or what happened, like what's deep down underneath there. There's nothing down there. Well, no, there
But
is
you
a
make
lot.
sense of it from the things that you currently know.
Right.
Which just reminds me, I have recently been enjoying on the History Channel, Ancient Aliens.
Yes.
We finally got rid of cable, moved to Roku, and so now I'm playing around with some of the channels. So I have the History Channel. And that is fascinating and was similar to what you were describing of trying to make sense of it from what we know and where we are. The cave carvings.
Yes.
And even the scripture, like Enoch, is it Enoch? The chariot of fire came from the heavens on the chariot of fire. What could that maybe mean from an extraterrestrial perspective? Light coming out of the sky, and they described it as a chariot of fire in the scripture. And then you see on the cave walls of various cultures, sun, like balls of light sort of coming down from the sky. So how do we interpret that? I mean, to me, that's yet more validation. It's really fascinating to watch those ancient alien shows. And there has to have been 200,000 years ago. The fact that they were where they were, or these occurrences, it's absolutely remarkable.
It is, and to the point of what we're seeing with the Webb telescope, again, if let's just say, if we were able to have a craft right now, or even some projection device, however that might be, to get to a planet in what we perceive as our timeline, their timeline would be very different.
Right.
So if we had some way to have a craft that could go galaxies here, galaxies there, it would be in their development that could possibly be way below what they are now.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So if they're coming to Earth, right, they're kind of like a little past where we are now, and coming to Earth with the whole light years issue, then they would have come.
Right.
But they could be doing that right now.
Right.
And what we perceive as right now.
Right. But I also think the only way, I know, I'm getting confused.
Sorry.
That I think the only way that's going to happen if we are within this time-space reality, we use air quotes when we say
I know, we're trying to how do you really even say the illusion? We're trying to explain an illusion.
Time, right.
That we're co-creating.
Is that the wormhole concept, or the way we're going to have to bend or jump dimensions because the laws.
Otherwise you couldn't do it.
Right, just based on the laws that are defined in this reality. My head hurts. Let's talk about something else. I only have 1 cup of coffee today.
Well, that is all right. Where are we? Where's our consciousness? Right, you were talking about how many cells we have in our bodies before we went on. Like, it keeps changing. It keeps changing.
It
Well,
keeps
of course
changing
it's
based
keep
on what we know. So I used to hear 30 trillion, and then I heard 50 trillion, and I was listening to a nutritionist, doctor, whatever, this week saying 70 trillion cells of the body. So that reminds me when I first started getting into Eckhart Tolle, I never say it right, who was one of my first endeavors into the spiritual world. He says there's as much infiniteness on the inner body as there is on the outer body. So as he tries to get you to understand this concept of consciousness, he'll explain, feel the space around you while you're sitting in this chair. Just feel the space around your body. Now feel the space in the room. Now get out of the room and go to the building. Now go up to the side. You are that infiniteness. Or another way to understand it is, if you look in the cell of your body, 70 trillion of them, each one of them has an infinitesimally small existence as well. So just as much space inside one of those trillions of cells as there is outside. And again, we had made that correlation of the body we're the macrocosm of the microcosm. If you look, I have seen images of cells under various microscopes. It looks like a galaxy. When it's under a certain telescope, it actually looks like an entire galaxy, one cell. So
Right, and the concept that each cell has its own consciousness.
so we were supposed to be lightening it, so I'm not so my head doesn't hurt so much. Should we talk about jewelry again?
Yes, tell us about
my
your
head
jewelry.
hurts.
Yeah, I just came out of the gate with all this morning.
Wow.
So welcome
Yeah.
back from vacation.
Welcome back from vacation. Yeah. Well, but
Like I was over
yeah.
here like the Webb telescope, and you're like, oh, I'm in
Oh,
this
the
lake
was
and
so
floating
nice,
in the
water was so
crystals.
clear. And then I went to Virginia
Violet
City,
flame.
and we did like so fun. Like
Yeah.
let's go complete cheesiness opposite
Do
of
it.
this consciousness.
It's all part of it.
Cowboys in
Oh.
Virginia City.
There were
So it was an old
cowboys.
Western. We walked by, they have the actors kind of going through. And
Oh, really?
yeah, because they do a show.
Oh, sure.
And
sure.
so they sort of troll.
bringing
And
you another
yeah,
timeline.
I mean, I had a whiskey in a saloon. I said to the guy, "Can you slide it to me?" He's like, "Ma'am, I don't want to get alcohol all over you." I'm like, "Come
No,
on,
but I got it.
Give me a sarsaparilla. Like, it is the quintessential. They maintained it. The
Yes.
Western town and the mines, and I guess I didn't go down, but they have the mines still preserved. You can kind of go through the mines, and they have a museum with the old mining equipment. Just fascinating. But yeah, as you're walking through, they have cowboy, white hat, black hat, cowboys. But walk by a cop, ma'am. I'm like, oh God. I love Virginia City. Very fun. Very fun.
Makes me think about in this area in the Northeast, going to Plymouth Plantation is kind of like they preserved it, but when you're Plymouth Plantation, this is so different from where. And I love Plymouth Plantation, by the way. I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you're
Period stuff.
Yeah, you're getting the like, howdy, ma'am, and you're like,
Yeah.
and I'm getting
Flutter,
the,
flutter.
like, there's flies on that food. Are they going to eat that food for real on that table? Very different experiences,
Yeah,
and the settings preserved for us to enjoy them.
Yeah.
There are
So,
not
yeah.
any
I took
pilgrims
us from
sitting behind
galaxy
them.
and consciousness to cowboys.
Why not?
Why not? Super fun. Super fun. So, how we doing on time, Gabriella Bella?
I have about 2 minutes left on the 25-minute timer.
Okay.
2 minutes, and we
Alright.
should introduce Gabby because we said
So,
that
yes.
we want her to be on our.
Yes, so you may be hearing the voice of God that comes through the speakers is my Gabrielle. She's mine, my daughter, Gabrielle, who works here at CAM. So we might be asking Gabrielle some questions here and there to get a different perspective from youngin' folks.
And
Gabby
she's
just turned
great.
24 a couple days ago.
Nice. She's
My
helped
baby.
us with the podcast,
24.
so
Yeah,
we-
sets it all up.
it makes a difference when. Well, we're just going to shoot to kindness and thoughtfulness and people working together.
Yeah.
So
Collaboration.
there were times where I thought I wanted to do a podcast, and people asked me to do a podcast. It never quite felt right, and then
It was Vic. I think Vic kind of.
Vic said
we
you should
had
do a
both been
podcast,
hearing
and
it
then I
over
was
the
like,
years.
yeah, and I said, well, I don't really want to get into the technical
Yeah,
part. I
yeah.
mean, I'll show up and talk, but the rest of it. And then he said, well, Nancy is
loves
really
the
good. I
technology.
was like, really? And then
He didn't say geek, did he? He might have. No.
That's right. Well, I think we've displayed
I think everybody's
certain
they're on
level
to
of
us. They're on to us.
We love our Android phones. I think that's a big red flag. Anyway.
We enjoy watching research from the Hubble telescope. All the cool kids do that. What?
Totally.
That is such a cool thing to do.
So it
Yeah.
just worked great. Then I was like, oh, Nancy, I would love to. That'd be great, Nancy. And then Gabby being here
Yes.
is super fun because I think what can happen.
So let's dial back too and explain. So
Yeah.
we're at North Andover Cable,
Yes.
CAM, and Gabby, my daughter, studied film and production and got her job here, straight out of the box. And
Yes.
Aileen, while she does her counseling, and her energy work, her folks be like, you really should do a podcast. I was a personal trainer and a fitness instructor, business owner, and so I was coaching. They were like, we really should do a podcast on the wellness information. Anyway, our mutual buddy Vic would tell each of us independently, you should really do a podcast. And then I started getting into the voiceover work and understanding the technology a little more and really tinkering. And I had Vic over to play in the studio one time. I was recording him. And we had come off a recording session one time, and that's when he said, you should do a podcast. And that's when you said, oh, I don't know technology. He's like, well, Nancy was just playing with the technology. So we started doing the voice stuff. And then Gabby said, we have a podcast room, so we came here. And then you and Gabby in cahoots to get the video going. Because I like my sound booth with me in the sound booth. So I'm getting used to the camera.
You're doing great.
Yeah,
You're doing great.
yeah.
And just the
And
joy,
so,
the
the
synergy
collaborative forces that
and
brought
the
us to
energy
this
that
point.
started it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing again. Well, we can talk about it in another podcast, but the seed of the energy, matter follows energy.
Yes.
And I think so often, especially with technology and social media, people can want to jump to this wanting to be seen. They want to jump to this like, woo, you know, sparkly, sexy situation. And it's not going to feel good. It's not going to feel right. It's not going to align unless the seed that was planted, the root from which it grows, is aligned. So we have a long-standing friendship.
Right.
And
the
I've,
foundation for this venture was solid. We didn't just jump into this.
Exactly. It wasn't like, oh, let's do this and then we'll become influencers.
Right.
And this. It's like, no, let's do this. And this is like a cool, loving spot. And we get to see Gabby. And so the whole energy of it
is just right.
Begins in kindredness and spirit.
So as we close, a point I wanted to make as I was driving up here, before you brought up the telescope, that something I wanted to talk about was, because I listened to as I was getting ready and driving, 3 different spiritual lectures about less action, less forced action.
Perfect.
And so I think we are in an action-based world. You're judged by it, you're defined by it, you're labeled by it, you're lazy, you're not doing enough. So the theme that I was getting from the 3 just variable different things that I had stumbled across this morning was do less, but do more by being in each moment. And so we could have gone against the grain. People tell us we should do a podcast. Let's go wrestle with the technology. Instead, it unfolded. But we were present each step of the way.
Yes.
And it unfolded better than we probably could have done with forced, misaligned action. So by aligning and trusting and following the path of least resistance, as Abraham would say, it made sense then to have a phone call about doing a podcast. It made sense then to call Gabby and see if we could use her studio, and just following that aligned action versus I got to do. So as we close, maybe thoughts on that sort of concept, doing less but doing more by being present, and not defining your purpose by the action, but defining your purpose by each moment of solid present awareness.
And the world is not stagnant. Right. So
nor are the galaxies, right?
Exactly. And so when we feel that we have to take action, we feel that's fear-based. That's fear-based. And when we expand to remember, we are so teeny.
We're not even the grain of sand.
We're not even the grain of sand. We're so teeny. That the perspective, perhaps, when we feel ourselves stand up, like I must succeed, I have to achieve this GPA, I have to attend this college, I have to have this many followers. If we can step back and realize, whoa, the aliens are going to be landing tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, Nancy, but you look good. You got your jewelry on, right?
I'll show them.
Or there's some other major, incredible discovery at the bottom of the sea.
Yeah.
The aha moments continually are yet to show themselves.
Right.
So we can just...
So let's enjoy those aha moments and not lose them by being lost in action.
Exactly. Yes.
Done. Wrap it up, Gabriella Bella. So, as always,
More to be revealed.
Thank you for joining us on Expansive Minds podcast, Gateway to Freedom. Until next time, more to be revealed.